Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Ever After Crafter. I'm your host, Andria Redlin, and today we are going to be learning a little bit about watercolor pencils. Now, watercolor pencils are kind of like sticks of pure watercolor. They are water soluble, which means they will dissolve in water, and most major art suppliers do make them, like, Derwent. These are pretty, I love these Derwents. These are really good. They're made in England. And Derwent also makes this type called Aquatone, which is the pure watercolor sticks. They do put down more pigment, but they do tend to be a bit crumbly. And then we've got Prismacolor, which I call them Prisma Wrappers because they break every time I try to sharpen them. So what you're going to need, besides your pencils of choice, you're going to need some water, and a jam jar will do just fine. You even might want to have a couple of them. I absolutely love these water brushes. You fill them up with water, you give them a little squeeze, and you got water. It's great, and they're so easy to clean too. These brushes are good for putting down a lot of water on the same surface. And you're going to want a pencil sharpener in case your points break off, which will probably happen with Prismatic wrappers. And then you are going to want watercolor paper because you just cannot do watercolor anything on regular paper. It will curl, it will bend, it's just not good, okay? So anyway, let's get started. Okay, I'm going to show you today 4 methods for using these wonderful pencils. We have dry on dry, wet on wet, dry on wet, and dipping. Okay, I'm going to show you dry on dry, which is really easy. So you can take, this is great for blending a couple different colors. Now what you want to do is pick 3 colors that are kind of alike, or whatever colors you plan on using. And you're going to want to use the flat side of the pencil. So not like this, but like this. This is like the overhand method. So you're going to go very light. You do not have to use a lot of pressure with these. These babies, they put out a lot of color, okay? It's there, and so a lot less, I think, gets wasted than with traditional watercolors. So we've got that one. And then we got the next color. Again, very light pressure, and then you won't get, pencil strokes. And I'm going to use these same 3 colors throughout for continuity's sake. Okay, and you can take a brush and dip it in water, or I like using these aqua brushes. These are really great, and they're not that expensive. So you can squeeze the brush just a little bit, just to get some water out. And then you start to blend, like this. And look at all that color. I mean, there is like a lot of color in these. And I wasn't even pressing that hard. Imagine how much more color there would be if I was. Okay, so that is the dry on dry method. And I just kind of made up these names. But then the next one is wet on wet. Now we're going to do the same thing we did here, only we're going to blend with the water brush with every single layer. So let's take our dark pink, and I'm going to go again. Okay, whoop. And blend. You can squeeze the brush just a little bit to get a little more water out. So it's kind of like a really thin wash. Okay, we're going to let that dry. Okay, now that layer 1 has dried, which took all of maybe 2 or 3 minutes, we can move on to the next layer. And you're going to get to see like a different technique or a different effect. So we're just going to go very lightly once again with our purple. Okay, and then we're going to take our brush and repeat the same process. I think with this method you see a lot less pencil strokes. See, like, you get more of a uniform texture, whereas with this one you see way more strokes. So we're gonna go ahead and let this one dry for a couple minutes. Alright, now that the second layer is dried, we can go ahead and move on with the third. So once more, use the side of your pencil. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a couple of interesting things here to see what kind of other effects we can get. I'm going to do my signature swirl design. And now, we're going to take our aqua brush and give it one more layer. See, you're going to get so much more color with, you know, building up of layers. Though, whatever method you prefer, it's completely up to you. I personally prefer the dry on dry method. I like to get all my colors out before I apply any water, but that's me, you know, it just depends on what effect you're going for. Okay, method number 3 is dry on wet, which means you're using a dry pencil on a wet surface. So probably the best way to wet down your surface is with one of these foam brushes, or you can use one of these. Personally, I prefer this because I think it holds more water. So you're going to dip it in the water and we're going to wet this down as quickly as you can because it's going to dry really fast. And then you can take your pencils and just kind of go crazy with them. This is a great way to do shading. And as they dry, the colors blend even more. You get almost more of a crayon look with these. But again, it dries pretty quick. They do dry pretty fast. I gotta say that's not my favorite method, but you know, you gotta experiment, see what you like. And then there's the last one, which is really good for shading, dipping. So you take your pencil of choice and you actually dip it in the water like a paintbrush, and you can get so much pigment. Do you see how the water is like flowing off of there? It's flowing off of the pencil. So as you're coloring, this is like if you want to get a lot of good dark pigment, and sometimes it'll flake off a little bit, but I actually, you know, I've never used these before, so let's see what the other ones do. These are also by Derwent, so let's see what these can do. So we've got the first one was the Derwent Aquatone, the second one is Derwent Watercolor. So I'm gonna dip, and then okay, I can see these aren't flaking off as much, which is really good. But look how much pigment comes out of these. I mean, this is like, it's so much easier to put down a lot of pigment with these as opposed to using the brush and pan method, or even like the tubes sometimes. So that's the end of the video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for right after the gallery. You can hear an excerpt of my book, Life is Short, So Lick the Bowl. Sure to make you laugh. So see you guys later. Bye. Oh, and before I present you with my book excerpt, I have a little bonus gift for you. If you're short on money and you want a pocket watercolor set, which, you know, costs lots of money, sometimes $20, $25, there is a way to make your own out of an old tin. What you can do is you fill the tin with self-drying clay. You can take a wooden dowel and poke a bunch of compartments. You let those compartments dry, like fully dry. Then you would paint the clay with a white paint, and then you can spray on a sealer. And then you take tubes of watercolors, which are dirt cheap. You can find them usually at Walmart or wherever, any craft store. Get the tubes, and you want to completely like almost like hump the color into the holes here, like because when they dry, they are going to sink down into a valley. You're going to want to let this dry for about 2 weeks. I know it sounds like forever, but then you will have your own pocket watercolor set you can take anywhere with you. But wait, there's more. And you can make them even out of the mini candy tins. And if you're really savvy, you can rip off the tops off of your brushes and tuck those in there. It's like, wow, how did I get 12 colors in there? But wait, there's more. And if you want to make a throwaway watercolor set, you can just take a little piece of wood and dot on your tubes of different watercolor paint and let those dry. So without further ado, here is the excerpt from my book. Since you've all been so good and waited and watched to the end of the video, I'm going to share with you an excerpt from my book called Life is Short, So Lick the Bowl. This is from the chapter called Finding and Conquering the Mommy Nazi. What is a mommy Nazi, and how does one spot them? Honestly, it's not that hard. These are women who are obsessed with motherly and wifely perfection to the point that it becomes their religion, and they think it should be yours too. Consider this your field guide. Sign number 1. They think they'll catch cancer with a simple handshake. They tend to avoid shaking hands whenever possible. And when they do actually shake your hand, they treat your hand like it's the dog's latest bowel movement. Then they wait until you're not looking so they can find a quiet corner and douse themselves with copious amounts of one of the 18 varieties of hand sanitizer from their enormous purses, where every kind of item has its own pouch, usually labeled alphabetically. Sign number 2. Their favorite fragrance isn't Chanel number 5, it's Lysol. When you walk into their spotless homes, your nasal hairs begin to disintegrate from residential cleaning fumes, leaving a trail behind you to their equally spotless kitchens that appear to be still stuck in the magazine page they were flawlessly birthed from. Which brings me to the next clue. Sign number 3. Visiting has been redefined. They want you out of their house as soon as possible. How do you know this? Because they offer you a nice, big, refreshing glass of water as your only refreshment. Really? Water? As much as I appreciate your concern of making sure that I get my daily recommended 8 glasses, would it have killed you to make a pot of frickin' coffee? Or to pop a K-cup into the machine? Cup of tea, darling? Not a chance in this house, because then I would have messed up that perfect great pyramid of sugar cubes sitting on the counter. Why would it bother you to wash an extra mug, since you clearly went over every corner with a toothbrush before my arrival anyway? And I know you're just itching to get that vacuum out of your alphabetically organized closet before I even make it back to my car. It's kind of funny how people went from living in one-room houses made of cow poo to these spotless, gigantic, cookie-cutter creations that aren't even, well, creative. Thanks, but I'll take the poo palace. At least it's environmentally friendly, right? And my cats can crap on the roof, which means I won't have a litter box to clean. Sign number 4. These people barely eat at parties. Their portions tend to be small, usually of the green and leafy variety, and when they do delicately nibble from their plate, you can often hear mutterings about the lack of vegan food, the surplus of bacon, and the hopes of the food that they're eating is organic. They often skip the pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving, too. For crying out loud, it's a damn party! It's one freaking day! Eat something indulgent and bad for once and enjoy it! And stop complaining about your weight when your size is a single-digit number. I'm sick of hearing it, and so is everybody else. Right now I'd kill to be a size 10, but I guess a 16 will have to suffice. Sign number 5, and this one I really relate to. Their children are like so perfect that you hate them before you even meet them. You know the type. They're the kind of kids who make your own children's accomplishments look like a Little League baseball player compared to the pros who are chomping their real chaw and making millions doing it. Their daughters are accomplished ballerinas that look like porcelain dolls. Your daughters are more of the made-in-China dollar store variety with the heads that pop off in less than 5 minutes. The photographs of mommy Nazi children are something to talk about, too. Their kids are perfectly posed, smiling with an I never miss a tooth cleaning smile, and they are immaculately dressed in matching outfits with not a single wrinkle or stain. Your children are donning clothes that are probably too big, with mismatched socks, wearing that forced smile that makes them look like a dog trying on your grandma's dentures. The mommy Nazis constantly let you know how inferior your family is. Maybe not directly, but they have that little magical way of working into the conversation that their eldest daughter is just one bandaged bloody toe away from becoming the professional ballerina she always wanted to be in New York City. Wait, weren't we just talking about your mother's operation? Something that, actually matters? And then you think, yeah, well, my daughter could have been a dancer too, had she also the rich grandparents to pay for lessons like yours do. The mommy Nazi's middle child is at the top of his class, is perfectly polite, and he enjoys building small inventions in his spare time that actually work. Your kid, on the other hand, just learned how to ride a two-wheel bike, which is a huge accomplishment for him because he's a slow learner with ADHD. The mommy Nazi doesn't give a crap, though, because her son learned to ride a bike 1 year after he was potty trained. It would have been while he was still in diapers, because they're perfect kids, but then he would have run the risk of getting the diapers caught in the bike chain, among other things. Sign number 6. These mommy Nazis, they are perfectly dressed, even when doing everyday, ordinary things, such as grocery shopping. Their nails are always professionally manicured, their eyeliner is runway ready, and every outfit is color coordinated, as if Coco Chanel herself was back from the dead and giving fashion advice to these women. These are the types of ladies who wear heels to the produce aisle. Why do they do this? Maybe they plan to use them as a new type of cocktail stick? I don't know, but what I do know is that my feet let out little screams of pity every time I see a lady in heels who doesn't actually need to be wearing them. Even if I wore them to work, I'd only wear them until I got to my desk. Then I'd just kick them off and put them back on when it's time to get up and get a cup of coffee. At parties, I usually remove them the second I walk in the door, especially if I'm at a mommy Nazi house because, can't wear shoes in their houses. Now, the mommy Nazi, on the other hand, thinks she's just a pretty little Dorothy in her ruby slippers, but no amount of clicking is going to remove that swollen arch pain that's only a few miles down the yellow brick road. Oh, and here's a bit of Wizard of Oz trivia for you. If you're one of the people who have never actually read the book, Dorothy's shoes were actually silver, and the witch was not green. There was also not 1, but 14 Oz books written by L. Frank Baum, and Dorothy was a main character, or at least mentioned, in 13 of them. Now that you know how to spot the mommy Nazis, it's time to take those bitches down. I recommend a sack full of dirt. Not only is it cheap, but it'll all send them into a germophobic coma. You're welcome. Thanks for listening. If you want to read the rest of the book, you can find it on Amazon in both print and ebook versions. Again, it's called Life is Short, So Lick the Bowl, and other stories about surviving womanhood in the 21st century. By me, Andria Redlin. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.